The universe in chaos. The universe was a vast and endless expanse, a place where countless stars twinkled in the dark and galaxies spun silently in the great void. For centuries, it had been a peaceful, orderly system, with different species living and thriving in harmony. But now, everything was changing. The delicate balance that had once held the universe together was beginning to unravel. War, chaos, and fear spread like wildfire, threatening the very core of civilization itself. It all started when the Zalkari Empire, a vast and powerful alien race, began to expand its territory aggressively. The Zalkari were known for their ruthless conquests, their technology far beyond anything most species had ever seen. They had the strength to crush entire planets with a single strike. For decades, they had been content to remain within their borders, but now they were hungry for more. The Zalkari wanted to rule the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council, a group of powerful leaders from across the universe, had always been the symbol of unity. They were responsible for maintaining peace and order, ensuring that no single race could dominate all others. But the Zalkari threat was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. Despite their best efforts to contain the Empire's expansion, the Zalkari continued to push forward, taking world after world, leaving destruction in their wake. By the time the Council realized the true extent of the Zalkari's power, it was too late. The Empire had already taken control of several key star systems, and their warships patrolled the edges of the galaxy, intimidating any who dared oppose them. Panic began to spread among the lesser races, and many turned to the Council for help. But the Council, despite their vast influence, could offer little in the way of defense. Their fleets were no match for the Zalkari. The universe's once proud leaders were beginning to realize that their authority had been hollow for far too long. They had relied too heavily on diplomacy and treaties, never anticipating that a force like the Zalkari could rise so quickly. There were whispers of a solution, a last resort. But even the idea of it terrified the galaxy's leaders. It was at this moment of fear and uncertainty that a strange, almost desperate signal was sent from a distant corner of the galaxy. It was a faint, barely audible message, but it was clear enough for those who had ears to listen. The message came from Earth. It was an offer for help. Humanity, the young species on the edge of the galaxy, had decided that they would not stand by and watch the universe fall into ruin. The Galactic Council was shocked. How could humans, with their primitive technology and short history, possibly stand up to the Zalkari? Most of the galaxy's leaders dismissed the message as a joke, a plea born of desperation from a species that had no understanding of the vast, brutal universe around them. The Zalkari were a force of nature, a threat that could not be stopped by mere mortals. No one could stand against them. Yet, something about the message stirred a deep sense of doubt in the hearts of the Council's leaders. Despite their initial disbelief, they could not shake the feeling that Earth's offer might be more than just an empty plea for mercy. Some began to wonder, what if humanity had something to offer? What if, despite their young age as a species, they possessed something that the galaxy desperately needed? As the Council deliberated over what to do, the Zalkari Empire continued to grow in strength. They were unstoppable, their war machines tearing through entire systems, their soldiers leaving behind nothing but ashes. The fate of the galaxy seemed sealed. The Council's failure to act swiftly had doomed countless worlds, but there was still one hope: Earth. Humanity's fleet, though small compared to the galactic powers, was unlike anything the universe had seen. They had developed a unique form of technology, teleportation, a discovery that allowed their ships to move faster than any known enemy could react. It was this technology that had allowed them to make such a bold offer. It was their last chance to make a difference, and they were ready to fight. However, many across the galaxy were skeptical. They wondered if humans could truly make a difference. The Zalkari had fleets capable of destroying entire civilizations, so how could humanity, with its relatively small and inexperienced forces, hope to stand a chance? The answer, however, was not something anyone expected. The universe had underestimated humanity's resilience and the depths of their determination. The universe was on the brink. The galaxy was torn apart by the brutality of war, and every faction fought for their survival. But amidst all the chaos, one question hung in the air. Could humanity rise to the challenge and become the saviors the universe so desperately needed? Or would they fall like so many others before them? As the stars burned bright above, and the galaxies collided in a cosmic struggle, the final hope lay with Earth. Humanity's answer would determine the fate of the universe. The war was about to reach a new level, and nothing could stop it now. The universe was in chaos, but there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity's time had come. Humanity's gamble. The vast expanse of the galaxy was fractured. Systems, once united under the peaceful banner of the Galactic Council, were now plunged into chaos. The Zalkari, with their superior technology and ruthless strategy, swept through system after system, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. Entire planets fell, their inhabitants either enslaved or destroyed. The once proud galactic powers were helpless in the face of such overwhelming force. But amid the darkness, a single spark of hope flickered. Earth, humanity, a young species with only a fraction of the galactic experience, had thrown their hat into the ring, offering to join the fray. They were prepared to fight for the galaxy's future, and they had one weapon that no one else had: the teleportation fleet. Humanity's fleet, though small compared to the combined forces of the Galactic Council and the Zalkari, was a marvel of engineering. It wasn't the size or the firepower of their ships that made them dangerous, but the technology that powered them. The ability to teleport instantaneously across vast distances. This technology, still in its early stages, was the very thing that had caught the attention of the Council. Could this be the key to tipping the scales in their favor? As the Council debated what to do, they were faced with a difficult question. Should they risk everything on a species that had never been tested in war? Humanity's technology was unproven, and their battle experience was almost non-existent. The Zalkari were brutal, and they had been waging war for millennia. What could humans possibly offer in such a desperate situation? Yet, even as doubt clouded the minds of the Council members, there was something undeniable about humanity's spirit. They had faced countless challenges and had always overcome them. Could this be their chance to prove that even in the darkest times, humanity's determination could shine through? As the days passed, the Zalkari continued to march forward, their fleets growing larger with every conquest. Time was running out. The Council's failure to act swiftly had allowed the Zalkari to gain even more ground. Entire star systems fell under their control, and soon the capital of the Galactic Council itself would be in jeopardy. In the depths of the Council's chambers, a decision was finally made. Humanity would be given a chance. But this was not a decision made lightly. The fate of the galaxy rested on the shoulders of a species that had never known true war, and the risks were enormous. If they failed, the entire galaxy could be lost. But if humanity succeeded, the tides of war could change forever. Meanwhile, on Earth, the leaders of humanity gathered in secret. Their fleet was ready, but the risks they were about to take were nothing short of monumental. The Zalkari were unstoppable on the battlefield, their advanced ships tearing through fleets with ease. Humanity's strategy was simple yet dangerous. Teleport their fleet behind enemy lines, strike swiftly, and leave before the enemy could react. It was a gamble, one that could either turn the tide of war or lead to utter destruction. The teleportation fleet was humanity's last hope, and the plan was nothing short of audacious. Their ships would be sent to key points in Zalkari territory, using the element of surprise to strike at their enemies' most vital systems. With teleportation technology, the humans could travel faster than any enemy fleet could respond. But there was a catch. Each jump would put an enormous strain on their ship's engines, and they would have only a brief window of opportunity to strike before they had to return to their base. The stakes were high. If the fleet failed to return in time, they would be trapped behind enemy lines, and the Zalkari would have a perfect opportunity to destroy them. But the humans had no choice. They had to act now. As the final preparations were made, the leaders of Earth watched with a mix of hope and fear. The teleportation fleet was their gamble. There was no turning back now. Humanity had made its decision. The universe was on the brink, and the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. The Zalkari might be the most powerful force in the galaxy, but humanity had something they didn't: hope, determination, and a weapon that could make all the difference. It was time to see if humanity could truly rise to the challenge and prove themselves as the galaxy's last hope. As the fleet prepared to launch, one question echoed in the minds of the commanders. Would the universe witness the birth of humanity's greatest triumph? Or would this be the final desperate gamble in a losing war? The universe held its breath. The first strike. The hum of the teleportation fleet's engines filled the command centers on Earth. A heavy silence hung in the air as commanders, scientists, and soldiers all gathered in anticipation. The countdown had begun. Humanity's first strike against the Zalkari was about to take place, and it would either mark the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history or be the final desperate act of a species facing certain extinction. The fleet of human ships, though small in number, was packed with the latest military technology. Each vessel was equipped with teleportation drives, capable of instantly transporting them across vast distances, far beyond the reach of the enemy's radar systems. The humans had studied their enemy's tactics, learned from their weaknesses, and planned every detail meticulously. But there was one thing they couldn't account for: the unpredictability of war. Would their technology hold up under real combat conditions? Would the Zalkari be prepared for a strategy they had never encountered before? As the countdown clock reached 0, the fleet powered up its teleportation drives. The first ship, the Defiant, a heavily armored vessel equipped with state-of-the-art weapons, led the charge. It shot into the dark abyss of space, vanishing from one point and reappearing far behind enemy lines, unnoticed by the Zalkari. The moment the Defiant arrived, the battle began. Its arrival was nothing short of a miracle, a surprise attack, so sudden and unexpected that the Zalkari had no time to react. The human fleet unleashed a salvo of missiles and laser blasts at the enemy's key ships, targeting their communications and power sources. The Zalkari fleet, initially disoriented by the sudden attack, scrambled to retaliate, but the humans were already gone. In the blink of an eye, the Defiant vanished again, leaving only the chaos of destroyed ships in its wake. It was a perfect hit. The Zalkari were thrown into confusion. Their fleets had been designed for open combat, for confrontations where they could overwhelm their enemies with superior firepower. But they had never encountered an enemy who could strike without warning, attack from the shadows, and then disappear before they could be countered. The human fleet made several more jumps, each time appearing behind different Zalkari formations, striking with precision and disappearing before the enemy could organize a defense. It was a tactic no one had seen before. Each attack was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimal risk, and it worked. Yet, as the humans celebrated their early successes, they knew the Zalkari would not remain disoriented for long. The Zalkari were a highly adaptive species, known for their brutal efficiency and quick learning. It was only a matter of time before they figured out how to counter the human fleet's teleportation advantage. Inside the command center, the mood shifted from one of cautious optimism to one of cold calculation. Humanity had dealt a significant blow to the Zalkari, but the war was far from over. The Zalkari would learn from their mistakes, adapt, and come for them with a vengeance. But for now, the humans had won their first battle, and the galaxy had witnessed something that no one had expected: a glimpse of humanity's raw potential. The first strike had been a success, but it was only the beginning. Humanity had no illusions about what lay ahead. The Zalkari would regroup, learn, and come for them with everything they had. But humanity's fleet was prepared to fight back, to strike again and again, with all the fury and determination they had. And so, the battle raged on, with the universe watching, waiting to see if humanity's daring strategy would lead them to victory or to their doom. The Zalkari's counterattack. The initial success of humanity's fleet had rattled the Zalkari. The first few strikes were like thunderclaps in the dark, powerful, disorienting, and unpredictable. But as the days passed, the Zalkari began to regroup. They were quick learners, and their pride burned deep. They could feel the shifting balance of power, and it ignited a fierce determination to crush humanity's insolence once and for all. The Zalkari High Command gathered in their massive warships, each one a monument to their military might. The fleet was enormous, far larger than anything humanity had managed to muster. At first glance, it appeared unstoppable, a wall of pure force heading toward Earth. But what the Zalkari did not know was that humanity was no longer the underdog, not in the way they thought. The humans, too, were not idle. They knew the Zalkari would adapt, and they were already preparing their next move. The commander of the human fleet, Admiral Sophia Darnell, stood at the head of her command center, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. Her fingers danced across the interface, calculating, analyzing. She had a plan, but it would be risky. It was time to take the fight to the Zalkari in a way they had not expected. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the human fleet continued to use their teleportation technology with devastating effect. They hit the Zalkari where it hurt, striking at their supply lines, their fleet's command centers, and their critical infrastructure. The Zalkari retaliated, but the humans were always one step ahead, disappearing before their enemies could counter. But the Zalkari weren't foolish. They had already started to adapt. They began to deploy new technologies, ones that could track the teleportation signals and predict where the human ships would strike next. It was only a matter of time before the Zalkari adapted fully and turned the tables on the humans. They learned quickly, and soon they began to lock down areas of space where the human fleet had been operating. It was a brilliant move that turned the tide in their favor. One by one, the teleportation jumps grew less effective. The Zalkari started to anticipate them, predicting where the next strike would land. They laid traps in space, forcing the human fleet into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Now it wasn't just a matter of precision. It was a matter of survival. Admiral Darnell knew the next move would be critical. If humanity's fleet could no longer outmaneuver the Zalkari, the war would turn against them. She had to think of something new, something the Zalkari couldn't predict. She called a meeting of her top strategists and scientists to formulate a new plan. The Zalkari have begun to predict our movements, Darnell said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. If we don't change tactics, we'll be sitting ducks. We need to give them something they won't expect. It's time for something unpredictable. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the gravity of the situation. Humanity's fleet was in jeopardy, but they still had one major advantage: their resilience. And that was something the Zalkari couldn't understand. They may have the numbers and the firepower, but humanity had something far more dangerous: ingenuity. The new plan was a gamble, one that could either win the war or see the fleet utterly destroyed. Admiral Darnell ordered her ships to initiate a series of random teleportation jumps, creating a pattern that seemed erratic and chaotic. The idea was to confuse the Zalkari, to make them question their predictions and force them to act impulsively. At first, the Zalkari were caught off guard. They had never encountered such erratic behavior before. They scrambled to adjust, but the human fleet was already gone, reappearing in an entirely different sector. The Zalkari began to panic, their plans unraveling. It was in this moment of disarray that the humans made their boldest move yet. They sent a small fleet to attack one of the Zalkari's most heavily fortified systems. It wasn't their largest fleet, but it was a calculated risk. The humans hoped that by attacking in force, they would create enough confusion to disrupt the Zalkari's larger strategy. The Zalkari responded quickly, but the humans had already set the trap. As the Zalkari closed in on the attack fleet, they were ambushed by the main human force, which had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. It was a perfect counterattack, executed with the precision and unpredictability that the Zalkari had come to fear. The battle was brutal, with both sides taking heavy losses. But in the end, the human fleet emerged victorious. The Zalkari had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and fight back when cornered. Their pride had been their downfall. The humans had proven that they were not to be underestimated. As the Zalkari retreated, their command ships trailing behind them, Admiral Darnell stood on the bridge of the Victory with a grim smile. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. This victory was just another chapter in humanity's fight for survival, a fight they were determined to win, no matter the cost. But in the back of her mind, Darnell couldn't shake the feeling that the Zalkari were far from finished. They had been pushed back, yes, but this was only the beginning. The true test was yet to come. The universe, it seemed, was about to witness a war unlike any it had ever seen before. The tides of war shift. The victory at the Zalkari stronghold had shaken the Empire to its core. Admiral Darnell and her fleet had defied all odds, turning the tables on the Zalkari with an unexpected and devastating counterattack. However, deep within the heart of the Zalkari command, their resolve only hardened. They were determined to destroy humanity, no matter the cost. It was a cold reality that war was never a one-sided affair. While humanity's victory was celebrated across the fleet, they knew better than anyone that this battle was only the beginning. The Zalkari had suffered a significant blow, but their hunger for vengeance burned even hotter. They were not creatures to surrender or retreat easily. Instead, they would adapt, and they would strike back with greater force. Humanity's forces, now emboldened, knew the Zalkari would be coming. Admiral Darnell stood at the command center of the Victory, her eyes scanning the holographic display of the galaxy. The map was filled with blinking lights indicating the locations of enemy ships and the projected paths of their movements. The Zalkari were known for their ruthlessness and efficiency. Their warships were among the most advanced in the galaxy, their weapons capable of shredding even the toughest defenses. But humanity's greatest strength lay in its adaptability and the raw determination to protect their home. They had learned from their first strike against the Zalkari, and they were ready for whatever came next. "We need to strike fast," Darnell said, her voice firm, yet calm. "We've got one chance to cripple them before they fully regroup. Our fleet is ready. We need to move fast and hit them where they're weakest. They'll never expect us to attack so soon after a major victory." Her orders were passed down the chain of command, and the ships of humanity's fleet began to prepare for their next move. A massive assault was in the making, one that would send a clear message to the Zalkari. Humanity was not to be trifled with. However, even as the fleet gathered and prepared for war, there was a feeling of unease within the ranks. While the human forces were ready for battle, some of the commanders wondered just how long they could continue to outmaneuver the Zalkari. The teleportation jumps had been an invaluable asset, but they had their limitations. The Zalkari had adapted faster than anyone had expected, and it was only a matter of time before they figured out how to track and counter humanity's movements. Back in the heart of Zalkari territory, the alien empire was not idle. Their leaders were furious at the recent defeat, but they also recognized the humans as a worthy adversary. The Zalkari were quick to adapt, and their retaliation would come with devastating precision. The Zalkari High Command gathered once again. They were no longer underestimating humanity. They understood now that humanity's true strength lay not in its firepower, but in its tenacity and unpredictability. If they wanted to win, they would need to crush humanity's resolve and break their spirits before they could fight back again. "We cannot allow these humans to think they have the upper hand," the Zalkari commander, Praxar, growled. "We must strike before they have a chance to regroup. Their fleet is small, but it is relentless. We will break them, piece by piece." Praxar's plan was simple: hit humanity before they had a chance to strike again. The Zalkari would mass their forces and lay siege to humanity's homeworld, Earth. If they could destroy Earth, the heart of human civilization, The humans would have no choice but to surrender. The Zalkari knew that humanity's strength came from its will to survive and defend their home. Without Earth, they would be nothing. As the Zalkari fleet mobilized for this massive strike, the human fleet moved into position for their own attack. Admiral Darnell was determined to make her move before the Zalkari had a chance to lay siege to Earth. The stakes had never been higher. With the Zalkari fleet moving toward the heart of the galaxy, humanity's fleet launched a series of calculated strikes, targeting weak points in the Zalkari defenses. It was a bold move, one that would either cripple the Zalkari war machine or spark an all-out galactic war. The battle that followed was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The vastness of space was torn apart by the violent collision of forces, massive warships clashing with precision strikes and devastating firepower. The teleportation technology that had once given humanity the advantage was now being used in new and unexpected ways. Ships would appear out of nowhere, unloading destructive firepower before vanishing again into the void. The Zalkari retaliated with equal fury, unleashing a storm of missiles and energy blasts that shook the stars themselves. It was a war of attrition, where every inch of space was contested and every ship fought for survival. The lines between victory and defeat blurred in the chaos of the battlefield. Admiral Darnell's mind raced as she watched the battle unfold. They had been successful in launching the attack, but the Zalkari were relentless. There would be no easy victories in this war. It would be a struggle, a fight for survival on a scale no one had ever imagined. "We cannot stop," Darnell muttered to herself. "Not now. We have to win. We have to show them we will not fall." But even as humanity's fleet pressed on, the Zalkari's forces were closing in, determined to break their resolve once and for all. In the heart of the battle, the tides of war began to shift once more. Both sides had tasted the brutality of this conflict, and neither was willing to back down. It was clear that the war had only just begun. The question now was, who would come out on top? Humanity's strength was unmatched, but so too was the relentless fury of the Zalkari. The future of the galaxy was on the line, and only one side would emerge victorious. The final stand. The war had raged on for what seemed like an eternity, with neither side willing to yield. Humanity's fleet, battered and bruised but unbroken, continued to clash with the Zalkari in the vastness of space. Every battle had been a test of will, but the stakes had never been higher. Earth, the cradle of humanity, was now within the Zalkari's sights. Admiral Darnell stood on the command bridge of the Victory, her eyes fixed on the holographic map. The Zalkari fleet was closing in. Their massed forces were descending upon Earth, and it seemed like nothing could stop them. The Earth's defenses had been hardened, but it wasn't enough. Humanity had to make one final stand. "Admiral," a voice interrupted her thoughts. Commander Holt, her trusted second-in-command, stepped forward. His face was grim, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in his eyes. "We're outnumbered. The Zalkari are coming, and our teleportation fleet is on its last legs. If we don't act now, Earth is lost." Darnell's mind raced. She had prepared for this moment, but the pressure of it all was still overwhelming. The Zalkari had taken everything humanity had thrown at them, and were still pressing forward. Humanity's fleets had fought valiantly, but the Zalkari's numbers and technology seemed insurmountable. But Darnell had never been one to give up. She was a product of the very willpower that made humanity special. The same willpower that had driven them to survive against overwhelming odds, to push forward when all seemed lost. "Then we fight," Darnell said, her voice cold and commanding. "We don't back down. We strike when they least expect it. Prepare the fleet for a final assault. We've got one shot, and we're not wasting it." The fleet was already moving into position. The final assault would be humanity's last chance to turn the tide of the war. Darnell had a plan, one that involved every single ship in their fleet, every soldier and commander under her command. It was a desperate move, but it was their only hope. Humanity had already proven it could defy expectations. The Zalkari had underestimated them, But now, they would see the full force of what humanity was capable of. As the Victory and its fleet moved toward the heart of the Zalkari Armada, Darnell's mind sharpened with purpose. She was no longer just an admiral. She was humanity's last line of defense, its hope for survival. Her fleet was about to make the most daring attack in the history of the war. Meanwhile, on the Zalkari flagship, Praxar stood at the helm of his war machine, overseeing the attack on Earth. He had seen the reports. The humans had fought well, but now, it was time to finish what they had started. The planet Earth would fall, and with it, humanity would be broken once and for all. Praxar, one of his advisors, called out, "The human fleet is massing. It looks like they're preparing for one final strike." Praxar's lips curled into a sneer. "Let them come," he said coldly. "We'll crush them, just like we did before." The Zalkari fleet tightened its formation, each ship ready to deliver the final blow. Earth would be the prize, and no one, not even the humans, could stop them. But Admiral Darnell was determined to make sure that the Zalkari's arrogance would be their undoing. The human fleet surged forward in a coordinated strike. The teleportation technology they had perfected was used in ways the Zalkari could never have anticipated. One by one, human ships blinked in and out of existence, hitting key targets within the Zalkari fleet before disappearing again, striking where they were least expected. The Zalkari reacted quickly, launching countermeasures and repositioning their ships, but the humans were relentless. The Zalkari had underestimated them. And now, they were paying the price. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as human ships tore into the Zalkari's defenses. Darnell watched the battle unfold on the holographic map, her hand steady as the fleet executed their plan with precision. She knew it wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for humanity's survival. This was the moment they either rose to greatness or fell into oblivion. "We're breaking through," Commander Holt reported, his voice filled with awe. "Their fleet is buckling. We're getting the upper hand." Darnell didn't allow herself to feel relief. Not yet. They had been in this position before, only to watch their hopes crumble. This was the final stand, and she couldn't afford any mistakes. The human fleet had broken the Zalkari's line, but it came at a cost. Many ships had been lost in the attack, and the survivors were now struggling to hold the line. The final battle for Earth had become a brutal, relentless affair. Praxar's flagship stood as a fortress amidst the chaos, its weapons firing with relentless precision. The Zalkari were not done yet. They had one last card to play. But Darnell was ready for it. "Prepare the final strike," she ordered, her voice unwavering. "This ends now." In the heart of the Zalkari fleet, humanity's final weapon was deployed. A coordinated barrage of energy weapons, combined with the last teleportation strike, hit Praxar's flagship directly. It was the moment of reckoning. The flagship's shields shattered, and its engines erupted in a final cataclysmic explosion. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, the Zalkari fleet began to crumble. Their command structure was in disarray. Their flagship had been destroyed, and with it, their hope of victory. Admiral Darnell stood tall as the holographic display showed the results of the final strike. The Zalkari had been broken, and humanity had emerged victorious. But even in the face of victory, there was no celebration. There was no time for joy. The cost had been high. The fleet had paid dearly for this victory, and many lives had been lost. Earth was safe, but the galaxy would never be the same. As the human fleet slowly retreated, the survivors looked to the stars, knowing that the battle had been won, but the war was never truly over. For now, humanity had proven that when it came to fighting for their home, they would never back down. The aftermath and the future. The war had finally come to an end. The final battle had been won. The Zalkari fleet had been shattered, and their leadership destroyed. Earth, the cradle of humanity, had been saved. But the cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone involved. Humanity had lost countless ships and brave soldiers in the battle, and the price of victory was steep. Admiral Darnell stood on the command bridge of the Victory, gazing out at the stars. The universe felt different now. The hum of the ship's engines had returned to its normal rhythm, but the silence of the battlefield still echoed in her mind. The destruction she had witnessed, the lives lost, she couldn't simply forget it. Commander Holt stood beside her, offering a comforting silence. He knew her well enough to understand that the weight of victory was not always as sweet as it seemed. "We did it," Holt said quietly, breaking the silence. "Earth is safe." Darnell nodded slowly, her eyes distant. "Yes, but at what cost?" The Zalkari were no longer a threat, but humanity's victory had not come without immense sacrifice. Entire fleets had been wiped out, entire cities had been destroyed in the crossfire. Thousands of soldiers had given their lives. The human race had never faced a war like this, and now that it was over, it was clear that they were forever changed. But there was no time for mourning. There were still repairs to make, survivors to help, and a galaxy to rebuild. Earth had been saved, but the remnants of the war would remain for years to come. The galaxy was scared, and the road to recovery would be long and painful. As Darnell stood by the viewport, she couldn't help but think of what lay ahead. The universe was vast, and while humanity had proven themselves capable of great feats, the future remained uncertain. Would new threats arise? Would peace hold, or would the scars of this war forever haunt the galaxy? "What now?" Holt asked, reading her thoughts. Darnell turned to face him, a tired but determined expression on her face. "Now we rebuild, we honor the fallen, and we ensure that humanity is never caught unprepared again. The universe will remember what happened here today." The ship's communications officer interrupted their conversation. "Admiral, incoming message from Earth. It's President Avery." "Patch it through," Darnell said, her voice steady. The screen flickered, and the face of President Avery appeared. He was wearing a solemn expression, his eyes reflecting the same heavy burden Darnell carried. "Admiral, the people of Earth owe you and your crew a debt we can never repay. You've saved us, and we will forever be grateful for your leadership. The whole of humanity stands with you." Darnell's expression softened slightly. "Thank you, Mr. President. But we all fought together. It wasn't just me, it was humanity. And that's what makes us stronger than any enemy." "We've already started planning for the reconstruction," President Avery continued. "But we also need to look forward. The galaxy may still be dangerous, and humanity has proven we can defend ourselves. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." Darnell nodded. "We will be. But first, we need to ensure our people are safe. The war may be over, but there are still many things left to address. We'll handle it. I trust you, Admiral. Humanity trusts you. Take the time you need, but when you're ready, we'll need your leadership once again." The screen cut off, leaving Darnell with the heavy weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The war had ended, but the future was still uncertain. She couldn't help but think of the countless lives lost in the struggle, the unknowns that lay ahead. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven that no force in the galaxy could crush their spirit. As the Victory began its journey back toward Earth, the crew gathered together, united in the knowledge that they had triumphed over insurmountable odds. The battle for survival had been fierce, but the battle for the future had only just begun. The universe had witnessed humanity's greatest struggle, and now they would witness their greatest rebirth. There was no going back to the old ways. Humanity would never be the same, and that was something to be proud of. Admiral Darnell looked out at the stars once more. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a moment of peace. The war was over, but the real journey, the one that would define humanity's place in the universe, was just beginning. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood alone and answered the call. The future was theirs to shape.